in the 7th knowledge sharing program. We have Mr. Nilakanta Srinivasan as our eminent speaker for today's program. I'll request Dr. S. Rajkumar to do his formal welcome and start the session, please. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think the 7th knowledge sharing session, as Vishwa said, and Mr. Neil, as he called, is not new for us, and we would love to hear more and more from him. So that's why we have invited him for the second session. And the topic today is the customer centricity in manufacturing. So, as every one of you know that TQM starts with customer centricity, and then we talk about process, and then talk about problem solving, continual improvement, etc. So even though we talk in many forums about customer centricity, and we say the next process is your customer, even internal customers are your customers, etc. But in practice, if you see, still there is a large gap. Even though we talk verbally, but in practice, in actual practice, I think there are a lot of gaps. I think that is why we feel that the stress on this customer centricity is must for everyone. And I think Neil will put in his own style so that it will get into everybody's blood very easily. So I welcome you, Mr. Nilakanta Srinivasan, and I welcome every one of you who have been in this window. And let us enjoy the nice session this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me introduce Mr. Nilakanta Srinivasan. He is also known as Neil, popularly known as Neil. He's a MTech in manufacturing management. He's having 24 years of experience, and he has worked with various organizations like TVS Motors, Whirlpool India, Standard Chartered, Bank of America, and HSBC. He's a founder and principal consultant of a professional service firm offering consulting and digital learning courses with clients across the sectors like BFSI, BPS, IT, CG, manufacturing, ONG, professional services, and telecom. He also have created the value through the improvement projects, and he has saved a lot of money for the clients, around $20 million. He has contributed in this way. He has set up and led CX program for HSBC India across the BU.
Vishwa, you are muted.
How long? How long I have been muted?
Repeat. Yeah, you started talking about HSBC, his HSBC contribution. Around that point.
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
He's a certified master black belt and highly rated global instructor to navigate in cross culture and see suits to cultivate buy-in. Most importantly, he has also authored 3 books: The Client-Centric Protagonist, a little book on customer experience, the master book for Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification. With this, we are inviting Neil to take over this session. Neil, please excuse me if I missed something in your introduction or I have not pronounced correctly. You can please add on. Thank you very much. Session is yours now.
Thanks, Vishwa. Fine. Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone. So, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Excellent. So, without taking much time, we will jump into the session. As Dr. Rajkumar and Vishwa mentioned, I'm going to be talking about client centricity, right? And it's maybe the topic is not new to many of you. You must have already heard and also, maybe talked about this in the past in other forums, or, you must have even attended workshops, etc. But what I wanted to give in is two things in this session. One is a manufacturing perspective, and second is a quality perspective, because most of you are quality professionals. I also wanted to bring in an aspect of how this is relevant for quality professionals. So without taking much time, just quickly wanted to check if my screen is visible to you.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so I want to play one video. Allow me to just pause and change my screen. So I'll share a video here. Okay, I'm going to be playing a video here, and it's around 2 minutes. So after that, we will again get back. In case you're not able to hear the audio, let me know.
World's most bizarre restaurants. Before customers order food, have to accept the waiter's slap first. This is a Japanese restaurant. The introduction of special stress relief services. That's right. This service is also very Japanese. At first, the owner was trying to save the restaurant from closing down. She came up with this strange marketing gimmick, but she also did not expect. Once the slapping service was introduced, the number of customers coming to the store to experience the service increased instead of decreased. The business-minded owner. She also upgraded the service several times in a row. At first, customers entering the store have to voluntarily accept. Waiter slapped a slap before they can eat. And these waiters are the boss. Carefully selected young and beautiful beauty. Many customers came to experience. People feel very new to this kind of service. When someone was slapped, other onlookers would applaud and cheer. As word of mouth spreads, the restaurant's reputation grew in the area, with more and more customers lining up every day. The owner took the opportunity to turn the slapping service from a free service to a paid service. You want to come here to eat. Not only do you have to pay for the food, you also have to pay for slapping. It costs about $4 a time. If you want to designate a beautiful woman of your choice to be slapped, you also need to pay an extra $1. After the introduction of the paid slapping service, the restaurant's business did not suffer because of this. Almost all customers who come to experience choose the $5 service. What the owner did not expect was, not all customers here are men. Every day also encountered many female customers voluntarily come here to be slapped. After being slapped, they will instead show a relaxed and relieved expression, as if the pressure of work and family in this moment disappeared far away. At this time, the boss had a bright idea. This service is upgraded again. She offered female customers who came into the store to pay extra. Can be the waitress of the store once to beat other male customers who come into the store. Experience the thrill of slapping others. The owner of this two-way fee service, no cost at all. In the end, not only did she successfully achieve the marketing effect, also let her earn more money. So, if the restaurant in your country introduced this kind of slapping service, how do you think it would end?
Okay, I hope you were able to see the video.
Yes.
Okay,
It's really quite bizarre.
it's quite bizarre, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, let's say, if we introduce this service in Chennai, would you be interested?
No ways.
Okay. So, you look at it, from a lens of quality that all of us are familiar, right? About defects, about non-conformance, about meeting the needs of the customers, right? Etc. etc. right? So, slapping a customer, right, is technically a defect, correct? And also getting other customers to slap is also a defect. And no customer will express if you are doing a VOC or if you want to build a QFD, right? You want to create a new product or a new service and you're going asking the customers, then you're building a affinity diagram and then you're doing a HOQ 1, 2, 3, etc. right? No customer is going to say that I would love to get slapped in your restaurant, right? In fact, we know in India, maybe even in Chennai, there are so many cases where the waiter slaps the customer or shoots the customer or vice versa. And then there are so many cases, right? Starting from toll gates to other places, right? So if you see again, take a step back, the main product here is food and the main service elements, as you know, would be ambience and, service quality elements like wait time, etc. right? So the point really is, if it defies everything that we know about how we define quality, whether it is about a product or whether it is about a service, everything that we already know about the definitions of quality are getting challenged here. Yet you see in this case that customers are liking this defect. right? They are willing to pay for it. They are willing to pay more for it, right? CSAT is very high, repeat business is very high, revenue is increasing, right? As quality professionals, as operations head, or as CEO of a manufacturing firm, wouldn't you like your CSAT to increase, your repeat business to keep on increasing, revenue to increase, etc., right? So ultimately, the takeaway, all this is happening because customers find value in this service, right? So quick question, what is the value that the customers are finding in this case?
Maybe a fun.
Okay, one is fun. What else?
Maybe it acts as a stress buster for them.
Yeah, it's a stress, but that's what the video was also saying, right? So it acts as a stress buster, right? So like an exercise or like anything else, right? On a Friday evening or after a review or anything like that, you want to relieve your stress. Different people do different things, and this is one of the things that you could try out to relieve the stress. And so if you look at it, if the primary objective of the
I think we can mute others, please.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to mute everyone. If you want, you can unmute and talk. Okay. So in this case, you see the primary value essentially is about, how you can express or relieve yourself of the stress. So if I take a step back and summarize this or generalize this, right? The idea for us as a service provider, or as I would also talk about, how is this different from a product company, but give me a minute. So how can we help our clients succeed in all the ways that are important to them, right? So the idea is the three words that I have put in a different color, they are important, right? So that is we, our clients, and what is important to them. But what is also important is the words which are not highlighted here, our ability to, I hope I'm audible. I have not muted myself. Okay, I'm not. Okay. So the three other points, which is help, right? If you want to help your client, we need to have the ability. We need to have the competence to do that, right? Secondly, if we want to help them in all the ways, then we need to know our clients better. We need to know their requirements better, right? And then if we need to know what is important to them, we also need to understand their priorities. So if I summarize, our competence, our understanding about our customers' business or our clients' business, and our understanding about what is important to them, what is a priority to them today, now, right, is critical for us to succeed if we want to do customer experience and if you want to drive client centricity in your organization. So a quick question for all of you. You could either, I'll just zoom the screen for a minute. You will have to scan this QR code on your phone, or you can type this link on your browser, or you can just go to this site and type this passcode. You will get this question. And you have to respond. By any chance, do you want me to again share the QR code? Okay, I'm just sharing the passcode and the QR code again. I'll in fact put it on presentation mode for another 10 seconds for all of you to scan or type it. If needed, I can even copy this link and paste it in the chat, if that makes your life a little easy. So I'm pasting this link in the chat, so you can click on the chat. That's the easiest thing. So now the questions would have already started coming. So all you have to do is, you could type in, what or how you think your organization can become client-centric. Try to be crisp. Don't type too many very long sentence. You can type multiple answers, but try to have not more than 3-4 words. Others, I have muted you, so you can unmute and let me know in case you are facing any challenge or you want me to share the links again. Okay, you must be now seeing what others are responding. Okay, I'll give another 30 seconds before we move forward. So 1 point from each person would help. So we have around 20 odd people. So 20 points would be excellent. That's it. So mainly most people are talking about understanding the voice of customer, listening to the customers, right? So having a deeper understanding of what enables the customers. Okay. Okay. There's one more point. As I pause the screen sharing, listen to the VOC well, understand the customer's needs, include all details. Okay. Understand the needs of the customers and the empathy. A few more points are flowing in. So I just paused the sharing so you can't see. You can still see it in your screen, but I thought I'll just read that for you. Okay. So let me now get back to the presentation. So most of you talked about voice of customer, right? So I just want to start by giving my perspective. As our friend Vishwa mentioned, I authored a book recently called as Client-Centric Protagonist, and in that book I've used a model which is called as a 3L, 3-level client centricity framework, and this is one half of the model. So you look at this model, how does the client perceive you? That's very important to understand client centricity better. So you see the example that I've given here, a vegetable vendor and a doctor, right? A vegetable vendor obviously is perceived as a vendor, but a doctor usually is perceived as an advisor to all of us, right? So let's say if the vegetable vendor tells you that you eat this vegetable, this will give you a lot of multivitamins, or you eat green leafy vegetables, that's good for you, or something like that, right? What would you tell the vegetable vendor? Most likely, today's generation will say, mind your business, right? Or they will just ignore them. Our generation may say, okay, thank you, and walk away, right? We may not take our advice. We might say that, okay, this is a vendor selling vegetables or fruits, so let they just do their job, sell, and I will know what to eat, what not to eat, right? But if the same thing is being told by a doctor, if your doctor tells you that eat green leafy vegetables, he says, eat this, eat that, okay, that's good for you, right? Then we would immediately take their advice and follow that strictly, right? So what the client perceives about you, how the client perceives you or your organization plays a very critical role in client centricity. You might want to actually be client centric, but in order for you to be client centric, your client should be prepared or willing to listen to you, willing to participate in that relationship. So the question is, how can you move yourself up in that ladder from a vendor to an advisor? So a vendor can become a preferred vendor. A vendor is any vendor, but a preferred vendor is one that your company would always look in for. If you're looking at your vendors, there may be one or two vendors that you always prefer to reach out to. A strategic partner is somebody that you collaborate with when you're developing a new product, right? You share them confidential information. You ask their opinion when you are developing a new product. You partner with them if you want to, you are in a problem and you want to get out of that problem. For example, your cost is high, then you're trying to tell him how he can redesign his product, and then he says, okay, I will redesign my product so that your cost comes down, etc., right? And then there are advisors whom you seek out to for opinion when you are developing new. So they are like industry opinion makers in terms of what's happening, right? So I've just thrown few examples here, like brands like Bosch or SKF, right? So most companies today, when they are designing a rotary system, right, and there is a ball race or ball bearing in that, they don't design it, right? So they just ask SKF, you send your application engineers and tell us, what should be the the ball bearing that I should use. Or they even in fact ask SKF, can you tell us what fit we should have, what should be the tolerance, what should be the interference, what kind of a material we should use for mating, etc., right? So most often sitting there at the advisor level can also be a role played by somebody who is supplying something to you. Now, in order for you to do this, how can I then use this to build client centricity? So that's where this concept of Clayton comes in. Clayton is a professor from Harvard, where he says that customers want their problems to be solved and help them accomplish something in life, right? So every moment at this point of time, you and I, all of us have something or the other bothering us, right? So some of you here, right, I'm not talking about personal things. Of course, it could be personal, but officially, right? One of you might be worried about a report that you need to send out tomorrow. Somebody else is worried about, right, a vendor who is not performing. Somebody else is worried about a position that is open in your organization. Somebody is worried about a project, new product launch that is delayed. Somebody is worried about warranty complaints increasing, etc., etc. So all of us have some job to be done. So the concept of job to be done, right? This is a term that was coined by Clayton. He says everyone is going through a journey of trying to solve their problem. And we as service providers, it is our job to understand what is their problem at that point of time and how can we help them solve that problem, or how can we help them complete that job. So if someone is calling you saying, if your customer is calling you saying, can you make this report? And we might be thinking it's a Friday evening, why should I make this report, right? But you need to understand what is the job that he is having on hand. Maybe his boss is asking for an important report. Maybe his job is in trouble. Maybe his promotion is based on this report you're going to give him, and a variety of things, right? So understanding the client, the individuals that we are dealing with, not the organization, but the individuals there, and what are the jobs on hand for them, can increase the intimacy for you. And that is why we say that we don't have any organization today which we can call as a pure manufacturing company, because whether you want it or not, all of us are in a service economy. If you're more interested to know about this, you could read this book called Experience Economy, which talks about how all of us live in an economy where service or experience is what people are willing to pay for, and not necessarily the products. So even if you are making a component, or if you're making something which is a raw material for making a component, ultimately the experience of dealing with you, with your organization, doing business with your organization, it should be easy. The ease of doing business, not only with our country, but with our companies, with ourselves, our departments, should be easy for your clients and customers. If that is easy, if their job is easy, they would automatically come and give more business to you. So that's the theme behind talking about the experience economy here. And on the other side, you see the pie chart from Professor Parasuraman, who is very popular for service quality, where he talks about various elements which are significant for driving client centricity. And here you see tangibles are only 11%. The remaining all are things which are intangibles. So tangibles is your product quality. It is the dimensions, it is conformance, right? All that stuff is only 11%. The remaining of what customer values more are the elements that you see on the screen here. So where do things like this fall, right? Best product, delivery, quality, R&D facility, all this we see in the presentations that our business development guys or marketing guys share with our potential clients, right? But do clients at all value this? Yeah, they value this. Why? Because if you look at this client-centric model that I'm talking about, I'll just zoom this a little bit so that it's visible. So in this model, the base on the right side, right, which talks about competence, is essentially all those stuff that you saw in the earlier screen here, right? So all this is about competence. So if you want to be a vendor of a client, if you don't have this competence, they're not going to even entertain you. So it's a prerequisite to just be allowed inside to participate in their business. And if you want to be a preferred vendor or a strategic partner, then you need to demonstrate performance. You need to show how you can improve, how you can continuously change, how you can be agile in handling situations which are difficult, such as, for example, they have a problem and how can we build something quickly and give them, how agile are we? Are we going to tell them, no, this is a process. No, for this purchase order has to be released. No, for this, I need this. For this, I need approval of my manager. No, for this, we don't have infrastructure. For this, we have not agreed in our SOW. So if we are going to keep on giving, processes and other bottlenecks to them, then we have a challenge there, because we will continue to remain at competence level only, and we will get only a small share of business. And then we will all be cribbing that, I am in this business for 30 years. We have not grown this business, right? And stuff like that. The reason really is because you need to allow yourself to participate in helping your client. If you are going to be a bottleneck, then you will never be able to participate. Once you go to the performance level, then if you want to become an advisor, we move into the intimacy level. And I'll give you an example and later talk about intimacy. You take the example of SABIC, which is a South Arabian company which makes plastics. Earlier, it used to be called as GE Plastics. They found out that when they are sending the plastic raw material, their clients who are doing the molding were wasting the raw material because of the design of their casting machines, etc., right? Pressure die casting machines. So they sent application engineers to help them redesign the chutes, etc., so that they will be able to reduce the wastage. Now, technically, you see, if the clients are wasting, they're buying bags of plastics raw material from you, crystals from you, and they're wasting it, right? So that's good for you, because if they waste more, they will buy more, right? But the point is, they send application engineers at free of cost to help them redesign, especially the SME segment. Then what happened? The brand affinity started increasing. The intimacy started increasing because they were able to get closer. Same way Boeing, right? So what does Boeing do? When companies like, Jet Airways, which is not there now, but Indian Airways and the others, right? When they buy Indian Airlines and others who buy the Boeing aircrafts, they put online monitoring system and they try to identify, they implement our TPM, preventive maintenance, IoT and all that stuff. And when the flight is in the sky, they try to identify if any major maintenance has to be carried out when the flight is landing. And they make sure that all the necessary items are made available in the airport where it is landing, so that the lead time is reduced. So in other way, they have implemented SMED, right? So, but the point really is, this is not expected out of them. They are manufacturers of aircrafts. They are selling the aircraft. They will give AMC, they will give warranty, etc., like any of us. But it's not needed for them to do online monitoring of all the aircrafts live. Right? But they have started doing it, right? Why? Because it increases the intimacy. Because what the client want is lower cost. If your aircraft is staying for a very less time in an airport, you spend less money. If you're able to turn around faster, that's good, because your customer satisfaction, the end passenger satisfaction is good. Your overall parts cost will come down if you replace the parts at the right time, right? So all this is the reason why they implemented this. Now, this model comes from this book of mine, which is available in Amazon and Flipkart, which, in which I've described this a little bit more. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, if you look at it, right? So guys who are high performers in service, a survey done by Salesforce talks about, manufacturing service budget has increased. You see, high performers are spending more than underperformers. So the point I'm trying to emphasize that we are in a service economy, and then the manufacturing companies are starting to spend more on customer service, interacting with the customers and helping the customers is a testimonial to this response. So ultimately, I would say you succeed only when your client succeeds, right? So if your client succeeds, then automatically you will succeed because both of you are going to grow. It is a win-win relationship. This model is from Gartner. I don't know if you have seen this. This is called the CX pyramid. And I will allow you to read it yourself. There are 5 levels, but I want to emphasize the level 2 and I want to emphasize the level 5, right? Maybe level 4 and 5. So level 2 talks about solving your problem when I ask. So I here is the customer, the client, and you is the service provider. So when the client is asking you, then you are going and fixing a problem which is there in the factory, in your factory. If the client is saying that, "Arey, I have a defect here," then you are going and finding out why there is a defect occurring, and then you are fixing it, right? Versus level 4, where you provide what I need without asking you, right? So you are more proactive here because you identify that this is what the client is looking for, and then you are able to fulfill that requirement without the client asking you for that particular requirement, articulating it, right? Unarticulated needs. And at the top of the pyramid resides the fact that you're making me better, safer, and more powerful. Because all of us, ultimately, all the businesses wants to be better than their competitors. They want to have a safer working environment for both the customers and for the employees. And they want to be more powerful because if you have more power on hand, you will be able to weld or you will be able to direct how the industry moves. So ultimately, I'm just trying to emphasize the same concept. Okay, so we will not, if you want, we can use Menti, but I'm also open to, I'll unmute and then you can talk about it. So how can quality professionals help their company become client-centric? Earlier, we talked about, how can the company become client-centric? Now, as quality professionals, how do you think you can become more client-centric? Do you want to talk about it or go to the Menti? Okay, I'll do it with Menti. So I share the screen. So same link. If you go now, a new question will be updated and you can try to answer that question. Okay, let me just go back and share the Menti screen. So yes, sir, are you guys participating?
Yes, Neil, we have done it.
You can at least try 3 or 4. You don't need to do for everything. Just 3 or 4 you could do. Yeah. You don't need to submit for all of them. Looks like everything will come to an average of 8.5. Okay, so the leader as of now remains building trust with a value of 9. Okay, let me go back to my presentation, right? So the maximum emphasis that most of you are now laying on is trust, right? So you say that the client has to start trusting you, which is, I think, very, very important, because without trust, it's very difficult to drive any initiative with the client. Okay, this is not the response to that survey, but this is a different survey. And here you see that the percentage of manufacturing service teams that have increased the focus on what essentially they have increased the focus on 4 elements. The top item there being building deeper customer relationships, right? When we say deeper, it's about knowing the customers, not just the company, but the individuals better. So what does that mean? That's what I'm going to talk about in the next few minutes. So that means we talk about the client's business performance, client's financial health, right? So the question you need to ask yourself is, do I know how is my client's business performing? It's not about your business, your KPIs, your dashboards, right? And your financial health. It is about your client's KPIs, client's financial health. What are their strategic priorities? And what are the changing priorities, right? What are the frustrations that their management is going through right now, right? And what are the new metrics that they have started tracking? What are the new reports? Because nowadays, every company starts creating some new metrics, some new reporting, right? So new initiatives, sometimes new phrases are coming out, right? Some companies start using some new phrases in the company, right? Then you need to understand what is the language that they are talking, right? And what are their clients' pain points, their end customers or clients, whoever that is, what are their needs, their pain points, what kind of organization culture do they have? Every client of yours may have a different flavor of organization culture. What's the org structure and what is the power structure, right? So there's an org structure and power structure. And what's the difference, right? Org structure is what all of us see on paper, but power structure, we all know, we can feel it, right? There would be a guy who does not have a fancy title, but he has a lot of influence in all the important decisions. And there could be also be a guy who has good fancy title, but he may not have a significant role in important decisions, right? So he may not participate, he may not have the power to influence decision making at the top level. So you need to not only focus on the org structure, but you need to focus on the power structure in the organization. What kind of a decision-making process does your client have? Is it one person taking decision? Is it collaborative? Or is it like, you know, they lose interest after some time? Or is it that you have to drive them and they take decisions? So this is very important for you to succeed or help the client succeed. And what are their cost centers? How, you know, if you're going to do something, you know, in which cost center will it come, etc. And in order for you to, you know, understand this better, of course, active listening, observation, and power questioning comes into play. I'll briefly talk about, you know, what we mean by active listening. I don't have time to cover everything else, but you guys talked about trust already, right? I will touch upon what are social skills and collaboration, of course, as we move forward. I'll just take a minute to talk about this, and then I will relate this to whatever we covered in the earlier slide. Now, you look at a greeting card, right? What is the purpose of a greeting card? What is the functional value of a greeting card? Someone is trying to remind you that today is your birthday. So literally, in a sense, somebody is giving a written notice or a document that reminding you that today is your birthday, right? On the other hand, what is the functional value of an engine oil? It is enormous, right? If your vehicle does not have engine oil, it will cease. But we still value the greeting card more. The greeting cards given by our dear ones, you know, even if it is like 20, 30 years old, we still preserve them, right? But I'm sure 80 to 90% of you here would not know what engine oil, what brand of engine oil is there in your vehicle, right? In spite of it giving you a lot of functional value, engine oil, it gives zero emotional value. You don't care really what brand of engine oil goes into your automobile. As long as the vehicle works, as long as it doesn't stop, and as long as it doesn't cease, it's fine with you, right? But greeting cards have a lot of emotional value. You are just reminding someone that today is their birthday, but you take a lot of time to choose the greeting card, right? So there is a lot of emotional value in the greeting card and very, very less functional value. So this talks about the importance of not merely giving functional value, which is what most quality models do. We talk about QFD, we talk about functional value, right? But emotional value plays a more significant, important role in client centricity. I'm not saying don't focus on functional value. I'm saying start focusing on emotional value. And what does this emotional value essentially mean? It's about, as I said, your client could be on the other side, could be in trouble. For example, his management could be firing him left, right, center for poor performance of him, his team, or something else. Or there could be a pressure from the client. There could be economic pressure. There could be a variety of things, right? It's important for us not to be worried whether we are a B2B or a B2C or a D2C or whatever that is. We all are in the business of H to H, which is human to human. And there are three important values we transmit to our clients or we exchange with our clients. First being functional, which is all the basic stuff that we give in our products like conformance, quality, etc. Emotional, which comes from our heart, right? Empathy for our clients, their problems, understanding what they mean, unarticulated needs, etc. And the last thing is about inspirational, right? Are you able to inspire your client to perform better? Either the client sees you and starts performing better, or in other words, you motivate them to perform better. So if you are being at that stage of inspirational, right, then you are at a different league altogether, right? Because the client says, look at it. I have a vendor here who has more, who has a better OEE than me. We taught them what is the concept of OEE 5 years ago. Today, he has better OEE. His costs are lesser. He is doing better TPM than me. Then he will go, the president of that company will go and tell everybody in their company, look at them. We should be like them, right? So that is the inspirational value which we are trying to offer. And once that starts coming in, that client will never sack you. That client will never attrite, right? So that's the power of how we can drive, and how as individuals, how as a person, a quality professionals, you and I can drive this, right? Simple things, right? Instead of focusing on what we say, you should focus on how we say it, whether it is to your colleagues, whether it is to your subordinates, or whether it is to your clients, or even to your family members. Focus on how we are saying what we want to say. Likewise, focus on how we are doing something rather than what we are doing. Like, for example, you are giving a bad news, right? You're trying to call a client and tell him that, today's consignment is delayed, right? How you are doing it is more important than what you are doing, right? And it could be a bad performing employee. You're asking the employee to leave the organization. It's about how you do it rather than what you are doing, right? So always focus on the how bit if you want to focus on client centricity. So the quality, the effectiveness comes when we focus on the how part rather than the what part. And that's why Thomas Friedman, right, the man who wrote that book called as The World is Flat, right? Very popular book. He said that if emails were been around before telephone and then telephone got invented after email, all of us would be saying, forget email, right? Here is this beautiful invention called telephone with which we all can actually speak to other people rather than emailing. But unfortunately, today's world is completely, netted with only emails for everything. Even if you call someone and say, he says, email bhej do, right? So after the conversation is over, he says, you please send me an email, right? So the idea is we should establish human to human relationship that comes only through two-way communication. So whether it is about giving a bad news or whether it's about not opening your camera in a web conference with your employees, with your colleagues, with your clients, etc., no one is going to force you to do these things. It's about how you are going to do it, right? If there is a bad news, try to pick up the phone or try to walk to that person's table or his office and try to give that bad news to him. And it will not be as bad as you think, right? It will be much lighter than that. And in the same note, no one is going to force you to open your camera in a conference with a client, etc., right? If you open it, then you're going to obviously communicate much better, right? You can share empathy, you can share communication. That's very important because relationships are built based on that. And don't just focus on usually the counterparts who are holding power in the organization, because the kind of people that I'm listing here are the people who actually hold influence. And these are not the people in your organization. These are the people in the client's organization. So the question you have to ask is, if you are a quality manager in your organization or a quality head, you should be asking, do I know who is the incoming inspector in my client's organization? Do I know who is the line operator who is assembling that component? Either you or maybe one of your team members who actually visits the shop floor very often, the client's shop floor, right? You should be knowing who is the line supervisor there, how many line supervisors they have, and who is the line supervisor, right? Who is the assembly supervisor or assembly inspector, right? So there's a guy from the quality of your client who is doing inspection, line inspection. You should know who he is. Who is the client's metrology lab operator? You should be able to first know him, right? Then who is the secretary of your quality head, plant head, right? So it's very, or for example, their planners, or for example, their executive assistants. It's important for you to understand that these are the people who influence the decision that the big bosses in the client's organization take, which takes away the peace of mind from you. You lose sleep, you lose your bonus, your company loses the business because of not the big guys sitting there, but because of these guys. These are the guys who are feeding in information to those who are on the top. And if these people are attended to, if you understand what their pain points are, if you interact with them, if you go and use the concept of H2S, H2H, if you build intimacy with them, then automatically things would change. So the concept is very simple. All you have to do is to pull out a list of people, walk into the client's organization, make it a point that you visit more often, just go to the shop floor, interact with these guys, right? At least they should know who you are. Obviously, they will respect you because you are quite senior in experience, etc. So that will obviously make it much easy for you. But try to have a human-to-human connection with the folks here. Because if tomorrow there is a line stoppage, these are the guys who actually pull the bell and stop, right? So if they are going to call you first before pulling the bell, rather than calling their managers, that will make your life much easy. And that is where the client intimacy comes in. And you should also understand, like the folks that you see here on the screen, right? Like Rajinikanth, not the personality of Rajinikanth, but that character in Petai, right? Likewise, the Satyaraj character in that movie, which is Three Idiots, right? Friends, Nanban, right? That movie, right? And similarly, Vasul Raja MBBS character, and this character in that movie, right, of Satyaraj. So each of these characters you see here are unique, right? One is a driver, another is a skeptical personality, another is a friend, right? And another is a stabilizer. A stabilizer is one who focuses mostly on getting everything right. He wants to be the role model for everybody in the company. He wants to strictly follow what his company's doctrine is, right? While the others are quite obvious. So you should understand each of your clients have different personalities like this. And we need to understand what their social styles are. There are broadly 4 types of social styles, not these, but more or less it's around these themes. Understanding the social styles of yourself and your clients can build intimacy. If you look at this list here and each of those guys here, and if you know what social style they belong to, you would know where to catch that guy, whether you should catch him outside the office where he is standing out there smoking a cigarette, or whether you should catch him in the production line, right? And how you build the relationship. And that's about also how flexible you are with your social style. So ultimately, if you want to be client-centric, I'm almost coming to the end of my lecture. These are the 7 acts that I've also narrated in my book in greater detail of how each one of us can become client-centric. So the first point is about understanding the client with empathy. The second is about taking ownership of their needs, right? And I'm just making it very simple and easy, but there's more to it. But for example, ownership. In a hotel you go and you ask the guy who is coming and serving food to you in the hotel room, you tell him that light is not working properly. He wouldn't tell you that, sir, you call housekeeping. He would actually say, I will inform the housekeeping, sir. This is what they are trying to tell, right? But in our factory, if the client is calling you from the quality team and saying that, when will the delivery come? You will say, sir, I don't know. You have to ask production fellow, sir. Or you ask supply chain, right? You are not going to tell him that I will ask the supply chain to call you, or I will check with the supply chain and update you, because we feel it is not my job. It is not my responsibility to own that client or his need, right? You are saying that I stick to my job description. So the idea is about going beyond accountability to shared accountability. Like in cricket, right? If a ball comes between, let's say, mid-off and what is the other position? Long off and mid-off, right? Somewhere in between the ball comes, right? Between 2 players, the ball comes. both the players are not going to say, okay, this is your territory, I won't come. That is your territory, I'm not going to come, right? What they're going to do is they are going to run like this, one behind the other, so that one becomes the cover and the other becomes the main guy who is going to catch the ball, right? And no one gives strict instructions before the match that you are supposed to be the backup and you are supposed to run first. They assume that, or they try to form that kind of assumption based on the situation on hand. The same thing we need to do with other departments in the company. Right? Establishing an agile, fair, scalable, and transparent process. Now, here, most organizations have most of it other than the agile bit. Collaborating internally and externally with the client. I already talked about it, right? In ownership. It's very important that cross-functional alignment actually happens on ground rather than on paper, right? This CFT concept, we talk about it, but most often, even in the CFTs, people end up trying to defend their own department position rather than trying to work for a common cause. I went to a group of senior leadership team, CEO and all his direct reports, all the HODs were sitting. I asked them to write the name of all the team members on a piece of paper silently, right? Everyone wrote the names. Then I asked them to read the names. The person who got really surprised was the CEO, because the CEO wrote the name of all those guys sitting in the room. All the HOD's name he wrote on the piece of paper. But you know what the others in the room were writing? They wrote the name of their team members who are outside, right? Like the quality head was writing the name of the quality manager, customer quality guy, all those guys who report to him. And likewise, everyone else was writing their own team member's name. So the point was, firstly, the HODs there should believe that they belong to one team and they are not a representative of their constituency, right? Like the MLAs and MPs. They should believe that they are a team first. So that is the starting point for collaboration. Of course, consistently deliver on what we promise, because the first step for building trust is by delivering promise. If you stand and are available for a client as you promise, whether the product is coming or not, whether the quality is up to date or not, if you're trying to tell the customer that tomorrow I will send the product, let's say tomorrow you're not sending it, you should be able to call the customer and tell him that, sir, I'm sorry, today the product is not coming. But most of us, what we do, we will say, okay, let the customer call. If the customer is not following, we will keep quiet. Tomorrow we will automatically send the item, right? But the customer is anyway, noting it, he is observing it, and he is going to record in his mind. And later in some meeting, subconsciously, he will say, sir, they are not very punctual, sir. This is what he will tell to the CEO or HOD or somebody like that someday, right? So it's very important we stick to our promise. If we cannot, we should still stand up for what we promised, call the client and say, I cannot do it, right? And then, of course, continuous improvement and serving with passion. So serving with passion is I think something that you and I cannot be taught. It has to come from the bottom of the heart. And that's why companies like Disney, they conduct psychometric tests to hire people. They don't look at experience. They don't look at resume. They don't look at other things. They give people a psychometric test and they choose people who have empathy, because they have empathy and passion to serve cannot be taught. Other things can be taught, right? You can teach engineering. You can teach engineering drawing. You can teach any product development to a guy, but you can't teach someone to serve with passion. That has to come from the bottom of the heart. And it's possible to develop that. An individual can certainly develop that. So that almost brings me to the end. Just wanted to share that many people ask me, this is fine, Neil, but how do I know where my company stands? So we conduct an assessment, and the report of the assessment looks like this. So we give a score, which is department wise, designation wise score of where your organization stands on each of these parameters. 3, 2, 1, and 0. So 3 is the best, 0 is not good. And we find out where the organization stands and we give a score. So this can be, this is a sample of the online report, which can be later used by the organization to do action planning on how they can drive client centricity. So with that, guys, I'm going to kind of wrap up the session. I would open it up for Q&A for discussion. I know I tried to do my best to catch up with time. So I was a little bit fast. So I hope nonetheless I covered what I wanted to talk about. So we can take maybe another 5 minutes or so for question answers, and then we can hand it over to the organizers.
Thank you very much, Neil. I think it was a fantastic session. Most of the content for me was absolutely new, and it was a new learning, and I'm sure for other participants also the content would be quite new or away from the conventional content what we are continuously hearing about customer centricity or client centricity, etc. And your model, the 3-level model related to client centricity was superb. And that model itself is tempting me to buy your book and read it more about this. So thank you very much for delivering this session. Now I'll request Vinod to take care of the Q&A session, please.
Thanks, Vishwa. Neil, thank you very much for a wonderful lecture. So let me facilitate the Q&A. Maybe first I'll ask my question, then I will go with the participants' question. So thanks for the lecture. Maybe one question which is there, maybe others will also have the similar question. When you do this customer centricity workshop or you do a client engagement on customer centricity, how often do you think doing it for a manufacturing industry where there is a product in place and doing a similar kind of a workshop for a service industry where the service offering is there, is it completely different, or there is something that you can share between both these industries? What's your opinion about doing the same kind of a customer centricity program for these two industries?
Excellent question. By virtue of the fact that I had the advantage, or I would say the gift of working both for manufacturing companies and for banks, right? And banks, I dealt with corporate banking clients, etc. Right. On the other hand, I dealt with manufacturing organizations. I can say that, yeah, I mean, end of the day, it's about human to human relationship. But when we come to driving client centricity, some industries in service are more advanced in the concept of client centricity by virtue of the fact that they have already devised systems which are necessary for driving client centricity. Like, for example, the CRM. The CRM of a bank is much more evolved today with technology, etc., as compared to any other manufacturing organization. One. The second thing is also the kind of skill sets that they hire people with are also different, right? So we all know that, right? If you have your better half who is not from an engineering background, you may be well able to relate to what I'm saying. That people, when they learn maths and science and engineering, I find that they actually have less empathy. I'm not saying that all of you are like that, right? So even I'm from that background, right? Compared to people who study arts and humanity, right? So most of the guys who come from this arts and humanity don't find jobs in engineering companies. They end up working for services companies, banks, hotels, restaurants, right? Utility companies, etc. Right? And they are more airlines, etc. Right? So they are more presentable, and they are more willing to adjust, accommodate, etc. rather than our mindset, which is strictly, whether it is black or white, whether the client wants it or does not want it. So when we do the workshop or engagements, etc., the focus more is in these organizations is to infuse empathy in manufacturing organizations, which is already there in service. One. Second is also that not everyone in manufacturing organization interacts with the clients. So it is also not necessary that they need to have the skill, but it is essential that they have the skill to do job effectively within the organization, to collaborate. So there is also a large element of not client centricity, but employee or colleague centricity, right? How can you help your colleague, like internal customers, trying to do that concept in a different way. That end of the day leads to delivering better quality results to the end customers. So that's where the emphasis usually is.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for your response. So let me also hear from others. Participants, you can share your question in the chat screen so I can get that one passed on to Neil to get his response.
Or if they want to unmute and speak, it's okay.
Yeah, if you want to unmute and you can put across your question directly to Neil is also fine.
Can I go ahead, Vinod?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Neil, excellent session, Neil. Very different perspectives and very different approach to the whole. This one, kudos to you. My question goes back to this one that you said, vendor to doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes even to a vendor, we ask them advice about the vegetable itself, isn't it? May not be about the use of the vegetable,
Correct.
but more about the quality of the vegetable, whether I can pick up X or Y kind of thing.
Correct.
I do, especially because I'm not a very good, if I don't know how to choose the vegetable, if I'm this thing alone. Okay. So like that. So is that a relative position, or it is so fixed that bottom of the pyramid will always be a vendor like that? That is my only the one point that I had.
No, that's certainly a very good point. You would certainly move, you would have moved that vegetable vendor several notches high because you trust that person, right? You're not going to ask any random vegetable vendor whether this vegetable is good, because you know by default, any person will play his interest. So he will say it is good only. Like for example, coconut, right? Men have a problem buying coconuts properly, right? So when you go and ask that fellow, say the correct answer, but you and I, we may not trust that guy, but we will trust only that person with whom we have already built a relationship over a period of time. We know that he is genuine, right? It could be that relationship, or that can happen in few minutes, or it can take, like last week I went to a digital store and I wanted to buy some headphone or something like that. He showed me a couple of options. Then I wanted to select one option. He finally told me, he said, don't buy this. You buy the one which is next to this, which is lower in price. Because I said, this is better for you. Now, immediately I started trusting the guy. The product I went to buy was around 1,000 rupees. I ended up buying something for 8,000 rupees.
Okay.
Because I found that this guy was good. Then I started asking him opinion. Can I buy this? Is this good? He said, yes, it is good. And also finally, I thought, okay, now he won't cheat me. It is an innovative technology product. All these fancy products may work, may not work. We don't know, right? We all have so many products in our house, which half of them don't work, right? So then ultimately I started trusting him. So as you rightly point out, you brought out a very important point that it's not necessary that we have to go from 0 to 100. We can certainly move ourselves from 0 to 25, 25 to 50, like that. And you would start sensing that when the client starts asking you questions about their production, about how they are handling your equipment, material handling of your components, about other aspects like tooling related to holding your components, etc. Then you know that they have started in trusting you and started allowing you to become a strategic partner.
Perfect. Thank you. Got it.
So Neil, Vinod here. Maybe the explanation you gave for this question gives me one more question. So if you think that the expertise of a particular subject, for example, if I'm a customer and I'm very good at analyzing a digital product because I have the subject matter expertise, then the subject matter expertise itself is going to make me not focus more on customer centricity. Because let me put you an example here. My mother, who does not understand a digital product, right? What kind of a mobile phone is the best one to choose? There she, when she go to a retail mobile shop, she expect customer centricity more because maybe the lack of knowledge that we have on the subject. So she expect the service provider or the product manufacturer to be more friendly and tell her what is the right product. But when I am more expertise, I have more expertise on the the subject area, maybe that's where I don't really think about the customer centricity is being offered to me or not, because I would be able to make my own choice. Do you think subject matter expertise, the level as it increases, the client, be it a B2C or B2B industry, they care less about whether customer centricity is being offered?
No, actually, see, as the client goes with more technical competence, the expectations actually become higher and higher, because see, what they expect is, if they, like, for example, more about, let's say, Bluetooth devices, right? Then you expect your vendor who's selling that also knows equally about it. Today, most of us, as you rightly said, we do research on internet. And when we go into a shop, we know more about that product than the guy selling that product. Because the guy that's selling that product has only gone through the training material which has been given to him, right? But you and I are going to invest our money in buying a product. So we look at every other review and understand that product before we actually invest. So the same example, if we draw into a client, where the client is highly technically sound, then the client's expectations from us will also increase. And which means our engagement with the client, of course, not technically I'm saying, but from a communication or from a problem solving or from a strategic contribution, they would also expect more from us. those needs will never reduce. It will only augment more and more. It will never go away.
Okay, thank you. If I don't think there are any other questions, if there are any questions, you can definitely unmute and ask participants. If there are no questions, let me hand it over back to Vishwa.
Thank you very much, Vinod, for handling this session. And thank you, Neil, for giving the detailed explanation on the questions. Thank you very much. Now I am handing over this session to B. Rajkumar for delivering the word of thanks.
Yeah.
Rajkumar, please.
Yeah, thank you, Vishwa. Before that, anything from SRK, sir, or we can do the VOT? Hello? Yeah. Okay, thank you, Neil. I think it was been a wonderful session. I think most of the thing Vishwa himself briefed and all the insights that you gave. A lot of things were, even though I had been interacting with you for so many years, a lot of things were surprising. When you touched about the H2H, which was a new concept. Generally, we talk about B2C, B2B, and the H2H was really a good insights. I know you have been a bit tied up. I know Neil has been having, Neil is having right now a meeting with the TVS Electronics top management, but since he has told that you'll be doing the session, that shows how he is so much with the client like us. So this actually proves, but still thank you very much for that, even though you're pressurized. As I told, the book which he was referring about, the client-centric protagonist, I had this book, and also I did a read over this book, and a lot of insights, particularly the importance of VOC and how to deliver the better value proposition, which clearly comes out from the book. And I just wanted to thank once again Neil, and thank all the ISQ members, and thank the participants. I know it has been a tough week for you after the Deepavali, but thank you all of you to join the session. Thanks Vinod and Vishwa for constantly supporting in terms of Vinod helping us in posters, and Vishwa always being the MC, doing the MC, and also for the good introduction. Thanks Sundarajan sir for the motivation that you've been constantly putting us. I think also like to thank all the executive members. Some of them would have missed it because of their prayer commitments. Have a nice weekend. Thank you once again. And I think I will discuss with SRK sir if we can do one more session, because probably this is a good session. We need, we could have brought in some more, but we'll do it in a much bigger forum also. We'll try to talk with SRK and see that we can take it to the next steps. So thank you once again. Thanks all. Happy weekend.
Thanks, Rajkumar. Thanks.
Bye, Neil.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Neil.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Can I just drop off or should I hand over the control to you?
Yeah, we can drop off.
We can drop off. We can all drop off. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
We can all
Thanks.
drop off. Thank you.
Should I do stop recording or I can just close?